above the streets and houses, rainbow climbing high. Everyone can see it smiling over the sky. Paint the whole world with a rainbow. Up above the streets and houses, rainbow climbing high. Everyone can see it smiling over the sky. Paint the whole world with a rainbow. Up above the streets and houses, rainbow climbing high. Everyone can see it smiling over the sky. Paint the whole world with a rainbow. Up above the streets and houses, rainbow climbing high. Everyone can see it smiling over the sky. Paint the whole world with a rainbow.
You only knew the power. The power. The power.
Hello again. Welcome back to Scott Reviews Things. Get prepared, because a rant is incoming. The power of one, the power of two, the power of many. Yeah, many fucking Disney Plus cancellations incoming. You've probably seen it, you've probably heard about it, you've probably read it. It's all over YouTube and all over the media. The Acolyte, the latest absolute shit show from Disney Star Wars, has hit Disney Plus, and it's not doing too well. And that's my fault, apparently, and yours, because Leslie Headland, the head showrunner and writer, has said that anybody that dislikes the Acolyte is racist, misogynist, and anti-LGBTQ+, apparently. Well, I'm none of them. I just fucking hate it. And I'm going to explain to you why. Because apparently, we're the problem. Star Wars, I've been a Star Wars fan since about 1982. Maybe 1980. I think it was 1982. It was just before about a year before Return of the Jedi came out. Born in 1975. I was a bit early, or a bit late to the party to actually see Star Wars in the cinema. Star Wars, the original, Episode 4, as it later became, came out in 1977 in May. I remember clearly watching it. Don't remember what year it was. I'm going to say it's 1982, I would think, on a Tuesday evening. And the reason I know it was a Tuesday evening is for people of a certain age. A pools man, the football pools man, used to come around on a Tuesday and collect. You used to, unlike on online betting these days, you used to get a little bit of paper and you put your cross when you thought there was going to be a draw. I'm sure it was a draw. I mean, you used to do draws back in those days. So you put a little cross in there and you used to hand your money over. And we were watching Star Wars on an old VHS tape. Yeah, that long ago. There's people watching this won't even know what a VHS tape is. So we were watching it on a VHS tape, and I remember having to pause it because the football pause man came round. So I've been a fan ever since then. Went to the cinema to see Return of the Jedi in the Odeon up in North End. That's no longer there. And actually watched all three back to back in the hardest chairs known to man. So what's that? About 7 hours with minimal breaks between the two. Now, Star Wars fundamentally is a fairy story, isn't it? It's a swashbuckling old style western thing about a farm boy that sets off on an adventure across the galaxy. He meets scoundrels, he meets a princess, turns out to be sister, he meets big tall aliens, he meets short little aliens, ugly aliens, nice aliens, robots, tall robots, short robots. He meets this big bad guy that ends up being his dad, shock twist if you don't know, in Empire Strikes Back. And it's just a swashbuckling tale over 3 films. People have complained about the lack of diversity in George Lucas's original Star Wars. It's a fucking film about aliens. Aliens and different creatures across the galaxy. I don't see how it can't be diverse. But we'll get into that a little bit later on. It concentrated on simple themes. A space soap opera. Good versus evil. Heroism. And redemption. Simple things. And there was little emphasis on personal identities and the orientations of the characters. It's about fucking aliens and space wizards. That's what it's about. So, and people loved it. It became one of the biggest, if not the biggest, film franchise ever created. It's fucking monumental. And then after 1983, when The Return of the Jedi released, George Lucas was largely done. I think he was living off the rights that he'd taken the merchandise rights and was living a fairly comfortable life, I would imagine. And then, out of nowhere, he announced that he was making the prequels. A lot of people don't like the prequels. There's a lot of love for the prequels trilogy and a lot of hate for the prequel trilogy. Phantom Menace came out in 1999. Didn't really want to see about trade federation, taxation routes, and politics and intergalactic bullshit like that. But we took it for what it was. We got to meet Anakin. He was annoying, but we got to meet him. And then the world was introduced to Jar Jar Binks, which I think we can all agree no one ever wants to see ever again. But sold by the absolute millions and billions and trillions. Then we got to the Attack of the Clones in 2002, and Anakin had grown up to a whiny teenager that no one liked. We got to see Yoda bounce around like a demented frog on acid. And genuinely, it wasn't a bad film. And then we got to Revenge of the Sith, which I thought was an absolutely tremendous film. A little bit rushed in places. I think they could have taken their time a little bit more with Anakin's fall to the actual dark side. And that's what ultimately George made Star Wars into. Instead of being about Luke, it's about Anakin's fall to the dark side and redemption after that. So, simple philosophies of a well-made story. There were problems with it, as obviously some of the stuff had been contradicted by what had been said in the original films. Although he said he'd wrote this as a sixth film thing, it didn't appear to, because obviously Luke had kissed his sister, he'd had Obi-Wan say things about Darth Vader, etc, etc, etc. So a load of it didn't make sense. But we still loved it. And it brought out the kid in us. And the Star Wars fans are very passionate about their Star Wars, my Star Wars, about being very simple, good story, easy to follow, on to the next one. Then in 2012, and I was a huge Star Wars fan. If people don't know, I've got Star Wars tattoos all over my left arm. I was that much of a Star Wars fan. I had all the toys, all the figures. My mum gave them away. But you can't have everything in life. You can't have everything. The Millennium Falcon, the AT-AT, what else do we have? The Death Star, X-Wings, Y-Wings, all these different droids, R2-D2, C-3PO, IG-88. We have Boba Fett, the most mysterious, we're going to come to Boba Fett, the most mysterious bounty hunter in the galaxy, because he didn't say anything and we didn't want him to say anything. And then fucking years later, he said too much and got fat. But we'll come to that in a bit. It was brilliant. It was everything that you wanted a sci-fi. And the best thing about Star Wars, the films that had come before Star Wars and largely after Star Wars, showed you a pristine galaxy and spaceships. Star Wars was a lived-in world. It looked fucking lived in. It looked real, as much as a real galaxy can and starships can look real. But it did the job. And it was fantastic. Darth Vader, when the first time he comes through on Tantive 4, you're like, fucking, who's this guy? What's the Force? Was he fucking joking people? It's brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And those three films largely encapsulated my childhood. George Lucas fucked with them, and he put bits in, he took bits out, he was constantly tinkering with them. We can all agree or disagree on what actual version is your favourite. And for me, it's the original, unedited. That's what I want. I don't want all this fucking CGI bollocks, etc., etc. And that's what the prequels largely became, was CGI, green screen, blue screen, and the storytelling sort of largely fell by the wayside. And the attachment to the characters. We all loved Luke, we all loved Leia, we all loved Han, Chewie, the droids, even Darth Vader, the Emperor, Lando. These are characters that we could all believe in. Even Lando. So the lack of diversity. You've got a black man playing Lando. James L. Jones, the voice of Darth Vader. It's all bollocks. So the prequels came, and they were all right. They weren't. They could have been better. If someone wants to remake those films, they could make a far better job. Certainly, the fall of Anakin Skywalker. Obviously, we learned about midichlorians. The midichlorians. What the fucking hell are midichlorians? They created Anakin. He's the chosen one. We'll get to that as well. And then in 2012, Disney bought the rights to Lucasfilm. So George Lucas sells off the Star Wars franchise to Disney, and that's where the problems really started. But not initially, because as Star Wars fans, we were all like, fucking yeah, we're gonna get some new content, we're gonna get live action films, we're gonna get animation, we're gonna get all this. You've got the Disney bits of the Disney parks, so you've got Star Wars in the Disney parks, you've got all this going on. It's gonna be fucking brilliant. At first we got The Force Awakens, so the sequel trilogy from Disney started. We start off with The Force Awakens in 2015, and basically a remake of A New Hope, the original Star Wars film, and we're introducing new characters, as well as reintroducing Han Solo, just so we can kill him off, because Harrison Ford was in it for the money and wanted to be killed off anyway, so he got what he wanted. We get introduced to Finn, to Rey, we had bits and pieces going on there. We had Chewbacca return as well, which was nice to see. And we had Poe Dameron, who was sort of always insinuated that he could be bisexual. Don't have a problem with that either. We were introduced to new bad guys. Kylo Ren, Snoke, Captain Phasma. Captain Phasma turned out to be a load of old shit. Snoke had real promise until he died, and there was made a clone, something to do with clones and Palpatine, and he was Snoke all along and all this other bollocks. And Kylo Ren, he was the big bad of the sequel trilogy until he turned good at the end of this dyad in the whatever the hell that means, in the Force. Turned out he was Leia and Han Solo's son is this whiny kid. So we couldn't even do the bad guys right, let alone the good guys. So these were the problems that were beginning to stack up now in the new Disney-fied Star Wars. We couldn't write a decent good guy, and we sure as fuck couldn't write a decent bad guy. Kylo Ren sucked. Snoke was interesting until he wasn't interested anymore, and that was about it. That summed up the bad guys and the new characters. A couple of years later, we get The Last Jedi, where they absolutely destroyed the Luke Skywalker character. And obviously Mark Hamill's been very vocal on what Disney did, and Rian Johnson in particular. And you would have thought that Disney would have learned from the mistakes that Rian Johnson made, actually. Because The Last Jedi is an absolute travesty of a film. They made Luke this pathetic hermit character, sat on Act 2 doing absolutely nothing, wallowing in his own self-pity. And for a character that all we wanted to see was a strong Luke, and this was the real first instance for me that we could be in trouble here with The Last Jedi, because of the abomination they also ruined Finn, because Finn, he had potential to be a really good character, and for whatever reason they chose to completely backstory him with this Canto bite bollocks of what was going on there, and it just didn't make any sense. So, Last Jedi for me, I didn't mind The Force Awakens. I thought that was okay as an entry point to the new characters. I wasn't over keen on Rey as a lead character, but that was just because I didn't like the character. Nothing to do. She was female, and then we get to Last Jedi, the disgraceful way they dealt with Luke has never sat well with me. Tried to introduce a lot more comedy into the film. It didn't need it. That's not what Star Wars was really about. It had its light moments, but it didn't need the comedic bits of it. It was just a terrible, terrible film. And then we arrive at The Rise of Skywalker, where somehow Palpatine returned. I mean, the problems again, and this seems to follow all the Disney Star Wars stuff. The problems with filming and production, and there were all sorts of rewrites. Apparently the story that came out for Rise of Skywalker was not the story that was originally written, so they've gone through rewrites and gone through all this. And then obviously Rey's a Palpatine, which we all had a guess. He got this absolute bollocks at the end where he's firing lightning into the sky trying to stop all these ships. It was an absolute mess of a film, and at that point I'm thinking we're in trouble. And then she just adopts the name Skywalker out of nowhere, even though she's a Palpatine. I don't see how that works. So we're going to get a new beginning. I think the new Star Wars Rey film is currently being titled with Rey Skywalker. She's not a Skywalker, is she? And I just think they should leave the Skywalker name alone now, Disney, because they've completely ruined the Skywalker name and the whole Star Wars mythology around the Skywalker name is dead. They ruined it. They killed it. And that was the real start of the problems before we got to the live action stuff. So the sequel trilogy for me, it was an absolute clusterfuck. Force Awakens was okay, and the other two films after that, why they didn't stick with one director ultimately harmed the process. I think didn't they fire Colin Trevorrow, or he just didn't take it up, and we were left with the Rian Johnson mess and the J.J. Abrams fucking shit fest that was Rise of Skywalker. And then they released Rogue One. Rogue One was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Didn't feel like a Star Wars film. It felt just like a war film. It was brilliant, espionage. It was brilliant. Led directly in to the first scene of A New Hope, where you've got Darth Vader going absolutely mental with his fucking lightsaber, force choking these guys. It was fucking brilliant, and we're like, this is what we want as Star Wars fans. This is perfect. It's a perfect film. We got Solo, Han Solo film. I didn't mind Solo. It wasn't dreadful. It was a Disney take on a Star Wars character. It was acceptable. Obviously, the problems during filming were well documented. The reshoots, etc., etc., etc. I loved the scene where Chewie met Han. I thought that was really, really good, and there were some really good parts in Solo. Was it the best film? No, it wasn't, but it was watchable. And then we came to the live action Disney Plus series. So Disney Plus came along. The Mandalorian, I think that was the first. Someone's going to correct me on this. Basically the Mandalorian sold Disney Plus. It was the first live action TV show that we'd had from the Star Wars franchise. Pedro Pascal as Din Djarin it's fantastic. The first series obviously introduced us to this chap here, Grogu, and multiple characters along the way. The first series of The Mandalorian was fabulous, and again we're thinking, this is brilliant. It's like an old Western, the original Mandalorian series. Old Western, and again simple themes of of friendship and love, really. The connection that Din Djarin ultimately builds with Grogu is fantastic. It's a fantastic first series. The second series was okay, and then the third series was a bucket of shit. And when actually it just absolutely fell apart for me. And Din Djarin was reduced to what Disney are doing now, which is making the man and male character just a complete fucking wimp. And that's one problem with Disney Star Wars, is we're not allowed any longer to have a strong male character. Every male character in Star Wars now has to be a fucking suffering oaf, and it's insulting. Then we get teased with Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett, and we're thinking, yeah, well, I am. Do I want a program about Boba Fett? I quite liked that Boba Fett was mysterious. I quite liked he didn't say a lot. I quite liked we didn't know a lot about him. We saw Jango Fett, his dad in Attack of the Clones, and we saw Boba as a kid. That was enough for me. I didn't want to see any more. And what did we get? We got Boba fucking Fett. Boba Fett. And this isn't a criticism against Timur, who I think is a fantastic actor, but the Book of Boba Fett was a completely misjudged bucket of shit. In fact, the only decent episode of the Book of Boba Fett never had Boba Fett in it. It was just a story that went nowhere over about 8 weeks, and ultimately left you thinking, well, what the fucking hell was that for? Money. That's what it's about. It's about money. So they've taken a character that was beloved by the Star Wars franchise, and again, fucking ruined him. But we got to see Cad Bane, you're saying. We saw Cad Bane. They ruined him as well, didn't they? So that was a complete waste of fucking time. Then we got the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and everyone's like, all right. And the problem with a lot of these series, where they're sat within the canon of the Star Wars films, there's no jeopardy in these films. So Obi-Wan Kenobi, set between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. Well, we know Obi-Wan survives till A New Hope, so there's no jeopardy when he meets Vader or the Sith Inquisitors. I think the Sith Inquisitors in it were crap as well. They were nowhere near as good as the animated versions, and the storytelling in Obi-Wan was pretty bad. I know they, again, another series that had problems in production. So Obi-Wan Kenobi came and went largely to a audience, and then we got Andor in 2022, and Andor, for me, a bit like Rogue One, because it's the same premise, is fantastic. It's a fantastic series. If you haven't watched Andor and you haven't yet cancelled your Disney subscription, go and watch Andor, because it's fucking brilliant. It's fantastic. And again, it leads into Rogue One, etc., etc., around that time period. The Andy Serkis in that is fabulous. And just the whole story of Andor, really, really like. Apparently they're going to do a season 2. I'd actually watch that. I'd come back and actually watch that, because I thought, please don't fuck that up. Even Disney can't fuck that up, surely. Surely to Christ. Or they can. Maybe they can. And then we got Ahsoka in 2023. That was garbage. And that's where things started to turn even more towards the Disney box-ticking agenda. So they're more worried now about appealing to a minority, and I mean this with the greatest respect, than actually the Star Wars fans that have been around for years. They don't give a fuck about the Star Wars fans that have been around for years. They're more interested in appealing to diverse, multicultural, etc., etc., etc. And what we'll do is we'll shoehorn that in to these programs. Ahsoka was garbage. Absolutely garbage. And I actually didn't think it was going to get any worse. Obviously, we had Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, who they brought us The Mandalorian. And I thought, you know what, we're in fairly safe hands. George Lucas is gone. We've got Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. We won't speak about Kathleen Kennedy, because she's just fucking destroying all this. they're overseeing, Dave Filoni, a supposed massive Star Wars fan, and he's overseeing something, and we're thinking, we're all right. We're all right here. We've got the right man at the helm, have we? Because at the moment, my confidence in Dave Filoni is absolute zero. Which brings us to The Acolyte, the newest. And it's certainly the most is it the most diverse or the most diversive of the the Star Wars Disney franchise? Well, it's upset a few, isn't it? Whether it's bad writing, and it is bad writing, it's terrible. Whether it's the woke agenda that it's pushing, it's completely destroyed the premise and the overall Anakin story arc of Anakin Skywalker being the chosen one. He was the one that was born from the midichlorians. He was the one that was born from the Force, and now we got the Witchbians doing it. I don't get it. I don't understand how we've now got two girls that precede Anakin Skywalker that just completely nullify his story. So the whole story of Star Wars is now completely dead in the water by this shit. We had an embarrassing musical interlude about halfway through episode. I haven't got to the end of episode 3 of The Acolyte. I refuse to watch anymore. And it's not necessarily the Disney box ticking agenda that's being peddled at me, although that's a huge part of it. It's the fact that the story's fucking rubbish as well. It's utter garbage. You've got a head writer in Leslie Headland that doesn't care if we like it or not. Well, we don't, because checking Rotten Tomatoes this morning, it's at an all-time low of 16% approval rating. So you're being told people don't like it. Now you're going to say we're bigots, racists, homophobes, whatever you want to fucking call me. I'm none of those things. I just want my fucking Star Wars to be about Star Wars, not all this fucking rubbish that you're peddling my way. I mean, how a fire burns on stone, apparently, is fucking beyond me. I just don't understand the whole direction that Disney are taking this. I've got a feeling that what they're trying to do, and the other thing they're trying to do, they're trying to make the Jedi the bad guys. You can't have a strong white man, heterosexual male as a lead character, and we can't have a strong Jedi. The Jedi have always been the peacekeepers, the good guys in Star Wars. Now they're being made to look like the fucking bad guys. Now I've got a theory on why this is. I think the Jedi are being made to look like the bad guys through time. So when Rey, not a Skywalker, gets a standalone film, she gets to build the Jedi up again in Disney's fucking box ticking view of how they should be. And I firmly believe that's where we're heading with the Rey film, and what they're trying to achieve with The Acolyte is to suppress the original films to build the new films in what Disney thinks they want Star Wars to be. And I, for one, am fucking done. I'm done. I can't tolerate lazy shit writing. I can't be forced. That's an appropriate word. I can't be forced to watch something just because Disney want to peddle an agenda. And that's where this is. The Acolyte has broken Star Wars for me. And I know it's broken a lot of Star Wars for a lot of people. I've got friends that have been Star Wars fans for as long as I have. I'm 49 years old next month. I grew up with Star Wars. This isn't Star Wars. It's nonsense. It's lazy. It's bullshit writing. It's canon altering, and it's disgusting. And for them to say that we're the problem, you can call me what you like. I don't care. I just want Star Wars to be what it was. Star Wars is about space dogfights. It's about rescuing I mean, the other thing is, oh, well, we don't want to be rescued. That's what it was about, rescuing the princess. Princess Leia is actually one of the most dominant characters in Star Wars. She's the leader of the resistance. She's a senator. She is a powerful, strong woman. What the fucking hell was the problem with Princess Leia? So when you say there's no diversity in the older Star Wars, you're wrong. It just wasn't smashed in your face like everything else. Do you know what? People watch Star Wars and things like this to get away from the normal world, not to have it thrust at them at every fucking second. It's really, really, really saddened me. But for me, I will not be watching. And then apparently this week, in episode 4, we introduced pronouns into Star Wars. Why? Why does it matter? My stepdaughter, right, before anyone goes, you're a homophobe, you're fucking this, that, my stepdaughter, Leah, identifies as being pansexual, and I support her. Why wouldn't I? But she doesn't fucking completely throw it in my face, walking around telling me she's pansexual every fucking day. You know, she doesn't need to, which is what Disney are trying to do. I support Leah in her sexuality, whatever she wants to be. I don't understand it. I'm not, as a 49-year-old man, I'm not going to sit here and say I do, but I support her. But what she doesn't do is throw it in my face. So that's where I'm at. I'm out. I'm done. The Force isn't with me anymore. It's not true. The original films, the Force is still with me. This new Star Wars isn't Star Wars. It's an agenda tick box fest from a company that has ruined the biggest movie franchise in history. Disney have fucking destroyed Star Wars. They don't want me, and they probably don't want you. What they want is the minority watching, so they can peddle their agenda to them and actually not produce content that's worthy of everybody. And that's what it should be about. It should be about everybody. If we're being inclusive, let's be inclusive of everybody. Let's not make the male a fucking wet weekend in Wigan. Let's not make the man, oh, he's over there, he'll die any minute. The white guy over there, doesn't matter. Let's make it inclusive for everybody, not just a fucking peddled one-way fucking street, because it won't work. And the viewerships, the cancellations on Disney Plus, they're all adding up. And someone's going to be for the can here. Kathleen Kennedy, absolute shit show. Bob Iger, he's getting pelts, but they're gonna the shills will be out there. They've been paid their money to say, oh, it's all fucking brilliant. It's all brilliant. It's not. And it's not working. It's not working with Marvel either, because they've destroyed Marvel. But that's where we're at. I've got loads of Star Wars merchandise. I still love Star Wars. Episode 4, 5 and 6. Don't mind 1, 2 and 3. I love Andor. I love Rogue One. But I am not putting up with this shit anymore. So for me, until it changes and goes to inclusive, and inclusive means including everybody. Not fucking, you do, if with inclusion, you do not alienate the majority. That's not inclusion at all. So Star Wars, The Acolyte, I'm done. I'm not watching the fucking single second more. Probably been a lot of swearing in this. Very passionate about this. So, but do you agree? Do you agree? Have you watched The Acolyte? What are your thoughts on it? Say, I'm no bigot, I'm no racist, I'm no homophobe. I just want inclusive to be inclusive and not a peddled tick box exercise from a company that doesn't care about me. Let me know what you think. Star Wars, love it, loathe it, hate it, enjoy it. Is it about space wizards, farm boys, and that sort of easy, simple to understand storylines, or is it about all this other woke, box ticking, peddled bullshit? Let me know what you think in the comments. Be interesting to see what the comments are. And that's me done. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumbs down. There's a subscribe button somewhere. May the Force be with you. I'll see you soon.